she found love in Egypt. She found love on the cruise. She found love and she got married.
Sex is an exchange of spirits and souls. So you are interlocking spirits with other people. God said, I cannot have sex outside of marriage. So no, like there will be 20 something, 30 still a virgin. My husband barely spoke English, but he was only massaging my hand and he just was like, relax, because I was super tense. I wasn't even expecting to get a massage on my hand. But, he was just like, just relax. He never asked me to send him any money, to pay for anything. He never asked me for any of that. I literally heard like something whisper in my ear, take this man seriously because he is your husband. I only plan on getting married one time, and my one time happened right now. I don't get caught up in religion because religion is a distraction from God. My friends will be like, but what if he just wants his green card? And what if he just, for me, my answer was like, so? I'm just like, I don't care because I take care of myself. This man was working 7 days a week for 14 hours a day for almost $200 USD a month.
Welcome to Maximum Impact with Jay Cameron. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. And this time, the setting is a little different, but the conversation is going to be extremely impactful. I know many of you are tuning in because you saw where I'm going to be talking to Bianca about how she found love in Egypt. She found love on the cruise. She found love and she got married. She tied that knot. And, instead of coming to America, she went to Africa. And so because of all of that, Miss Bianca Benoit, she's here and she's going to talk about her love adventure on the continent of Africa in Egypt. And she actually joined us last year on one of our tours. And so she was there. I'm sure she was not expecting it, but it happened.
I was not. I was not. And I just have to thank you so much for organizing such a top tier, amazing experience. Typically I'm a solo traveler. I do love to travel. I'm very good at making my own travel plans. And the first time I ever allowed someone else to plan my travels, I used Maximum Impact. And it was just exactly that. I had the best time of my life. So much so, I even found the love of my life. And I'm just so thankful for you and Maximum Impact and RC Blake's.
That's right.
That was the host of that particular trip that we took. I don't know how you want to.
Yeah.
He was the host.
RC and Lisa were there, and they were the host and hostess of the trip. And so I guess let's walk everybody into this because you didn't know you were going to find love when you came on the trip. You were just going on a trip to Egypt. Why did you even want to go to Egypt? What started that process?
Oh, well, I've always been fascinated with Egypt ever since literally like the sixth grade, when in social studies, when you're just learning about the ancient Mayans and Incas, and of course the Great Pyramids and the Egyptians. They were the first philosophers, the first scientists, the studying of the afterlife and mummification and mummification is the preserving of bodies. But I mean, it was just so fascinating, the amount of knowledge that these people had and just how magnificent they were. I was just always, always, always intrigued by Egyptians. Always. I'm like, that is the motherland for real. Like, in my soul, my spirit, I always thought like Egypt was the motherland in my thoughts, especially like being a little girl and just seeing the heavy impact of every science, social study, like everything that they had going on. They were just the real creators of life, it seemed like.
So you decided, all right, you're going to go on this trip. You saw RC Blake as he was talking
RC
about the trip, and obviously we did
Yes.
the info session. You signed up, and so you made it along. And I guess you weren't coming there looking for love, but love found you.
Yeah, it did.
Uh,
So I had a real candid conversation with God.
All right.
And yeah, so it was impactful that it was with RC Blake. So if those who don't know RC Blake's is a Christian based pretty much uh influence on just helping queens regain their queen consciousness, just helping with self-esteem of women and helping them navigate relationships during very difficult times. He provides a lot of safe Christian based wisdom to women, and I've always been a follower of him. I just really admire his his masculinity was a safe space and it was Christian based, and he tells it like it is. Things that we need to hear, like that, the father daughter talks, that's even one of his books. The father daughter talks, that was the first book that I got from him, and I was like, wow, these are real conversations that I wish I would have had with my father, that I wish my father would have had with me, that I had to learn the hard way and through the grapevine. So recognizing that, I did understand that I was taking my love life in my own hands, trying to have control over my love life. And honestly, I could say that I love God, but I wasn't really moving like I was putting God first in my love, my love with others and my love with myself. So I recognized that through teachings of R.C. Blake's and much self evaluation and reflection and seeing the outcomes of my relationships, knowing that I wanted to be a wife and I am a wife. And I'm just like, it's either they not fitting a bill, you have different seasons where it's either I'm not fitting a bill or they not fitting a bill, but something is just not fitting. So I told God, I said, you know what, God, I see my problem here is I'm trying to do it. And that's where I'm going wrong with this because I need to let you do it. So I surrendered. I said, God, I surrender. I don't know who my husband is. I don't know where he at, but I'm just going to fall back and I'm just gonna, they said, when you know, and it just, so I was like, okay, if all of that is true, listen, God, I have faith in you and I believe in you, and I'm just gonna fall back. I'm gonna fall back. I'm gonna enjoy my time. I'm gonna enjoy my experience. As you can see, if there's some clips that we could provide, I had an absolute blast. Not looking for anyone, just looking for just genuine, good experience, meeting new people, and that was it.
Okay, now I got to put some context to this because it sounds like a fairy tale, but there's always a context and there's always a story behind it. Let's go back to some of the relationship mistakes that you have made over the years, if you don't mind sharing. What because it brought you to a point to say, okay, I surrender. Normally, when people say they surrender, there's some sort of
Right,
there's like a
right.
uncle, that's it. Okay, it's enough. So, what are
Yeah.
some relationship mistakes that you have made in your life?
Imma say one of so I made plenty, let's not get it twisted, but one of the main ones was honestly, allowing my flesh to lead me and allowing flesh of others to lead. So let's just cut to the chase, okay? So when I say allowing the flesh is having sex before marriage, just moving with in today's culture is very much, let's do it and find out what happens later. Like, we'll use our sexual organs first and we'll figure it out later. After we have sex, we'll figure it out if we're supposed to be together. And I just feel like that really is not pleasing to God. And that doesn't make God happy at all. And I see a lot of the chaos, the confusion, the depression, the damage, the broken families that come from this, that sex is so much more than let's just have fun with it and see where it goes. Sex is actually a serious commitment. Um, so
So
yeah, that
you
was
so
one
you
of the
had your share of mistakes in that arena, according to what you I guess the experiences that you have had, just as far as the like, maybe some regrets or something like that, because again, you got to a point of saying that you were going to surrender, and obviously the message
yeah.
that R.C. Blake's he shares is definitely one that would encourage the queenology. That's the thing that that's his premise, and he's actually just a shameless plug, he's actually doing that again in Ghana this year. So
Oh,
to kind of put that, yeah, he's doing a queenology in Ghana. But for you, you know what? Because there's somebody watching right now, and they're
right.
saying, okay, I've heard, been to church, they've heard sex outside of marriage is not a good thing, but they're just not quite, you know.
Yeah. So what it is that sex is an exchange of spirits and souls. Like maybe people might not be, it depends on where you are in your spirituality and where you're thinking. Because when we think spiritual, I mean, the Holy Spirit, that's a Holy Spirit, but there is so many different spirits. There's demonic spirits, there's spirits of rejection, there's spirits of, addiction and just so many different spirits. And when you are exchanging, when you're having this close of intimacy, when you're having sex, it's like you literally are locked in and two flesh are becoming one. And we're not even going to get into other numbers. We're just going to keep it simple. But two flesh are becoming one. So you are interlocking spirits with other people, So getting impregnated by people you don't know, having just trauma bonds with people you don't know. And then you feel like, okay, this relationship is toxic. This relationship isn't working for me. And you guys break up for whatever reason, but you're still attached to them. Now you gotta kind of detox from people because you're detoxing from their spirits, and you're trying to get rid or get accustomed to or just trying to figure out their spirits that have entered your body. That's why you should be in a covenant when having sex, because this person is holding your flesh to a standard of, I have to honor this flesh. I have to protect this flesh. I have to provide for this flesh. I have to do the best that I can because I am one with this flesh. When we're just having sex, oh, I don't even know this person like that. We just had a one night stand. We just have this. You're just exchanging all of these different spirits and just different spirits just coming in and out of you. This is why I feel like there's just so much toxicity in today's relationship climate. People don't even know what to do or how to even be in relationship. Like there's so many like Western men that if I told, like, for the amount of women that say, I'm waiting to have sex until marriage. There's men that told me straight up to my face, like, I think you're my wife. I would love to have kids with you, but I'm not waiting 3 months for you to have sex with me. Or I'm not waiting to see, like, I'm not waiting for that. Like, and I just think it's in this culture, and this is why I appreciate the Egyptian, the Arabian, the Muslim culture, where it's really Muslim driven. They incorporate the Quran in their law. Like they're genuinely not allowed to have sex outside of marriage, and it's incorporated in their law. Like they would genuinely get arrested and have to face legalities if they are caught having sex or promiscuity outside of marriage.
So
So a
so
lot of them,
no, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So a lot of them, most of them really do wait until marriage to lose their virginity. So they get to maintain. So it's not to say these people are perfect or anything's perfect, but you do have a lot less incidences of broken familyhood due to having like outside marriage. People would say, oh, but they're allowed to have more than one wife. The men are allowed to legally have more than one wife. Those laws, they kind of change, but for the most part, they still have to get consent from the first wife. They're still not just allowed to do whatever they want. And they really honor this, and they really have a fear from God to honor this and honor their women.
So
So the culture and the climate when it comes to sex is different. There's a lot less perversion, and there's a lot more like purity that they
that's
they
what you've
really
discovered.
protect their.
So now, were
That's
you
what I
aware of
discovered.
this? Were you aware of this before your trip to Egypt, or is this something that you discovered,
No,
after you
this is something
established a
I
relationship?
learned. I learned along the way. Yeah, this is something I learned along the way. Like I didn't know how deep it was. Like what I knew about Muslims is that for a lot of like, so the difference between Christians and Muslims from my own life experience of what I'm just a student of life. So from my observation is Muslims tend to take religion a lot more serious. Like they have less flexibility in their sins. Like they just have less flexibility. Like there's certain things that they really stand on. Like, no, God said no. Like when it comes to alcohol, like, yeah, you have some people, again, it's not 100% of the people 100% of the time, but in a Muslim driven country like that, like you're going to barely find any place that even serves alcohol because they're like, no, God said no. God said I cannot have sex outside of marriage. So no, like there will be 20 something, 30 still a virgin
So
if
let's
they're not.
let's walk this down then. All right. So you on the cruise, cruising down the Nile River, and just so y'all know, our Egypt experience is one of a kind, and so you get to experience all of this. I don't know if you're going to find love on the River Nile. I don't know if you're going to find it in
I
Cairo,
know.
Luxor, or Aswan.
Oh, yeah.
But Bianca, you were on the boat, and your husband, now husband, he
Yeah.
was, and I've seen him many times. He was the masseuse, right? Is
And
that
I
correct?
know, and this could be very dangerous territory.
All
So
right.
I really do not recommend for, women, because there's a lot of people that would just throw themselves out there. And I just wouldn't recommend that for everybody. Like if you feel like you have enough discernment to, if you know what you want, you have enough discernment. I just say tread carefully when it comes to that. I was lucky. Like I said, I had a conversation with God, and I know that although I'm an imperfect person, my discernment is pretty strong. Like my discernment is pretty lit, and that is through trial and error and experience. Nonetheless, when I met my husband, it was something about his spirit that was so strong and pure. My husband barely spoke English, but what he was only massaging my hand, and he just was like, relax, because I was super tense. I wasn't even expecting to get a massage on my hand, but he was just like, just relax. And it's something the way how he said that. Even though I'm on the Nile River floating on a luxury cruise, like one of the most beautiful cruise ships ever, in the most iconic location. I'm on the Nile River, biblical, it's iconic place to be. I'm like, I can relax, but it was about his spirit telling me that. So, nonetheless, we just had a connection from when we first met. It was just very easy for us to understand each other. Although we spoke a different language, we still laughed, we still joked, even though he understood probably like 40% of what I was saying. It was just like, he was just like, I don't even care what you're saying, girl, I love your vibe.
So this
Was
is what he was massaging your hand, just
He
so
was massaging my hand,
because
but
again, I
then
know the audience watching, they're going to be thinking, all right, so he came in and he massaged some other areas, and that's what.
no, he didn't know. That was it. But then there was that purity about him that I could sense, that he genuinely was not on no like, "Ooh, she's sexy. Let me like meet up with her." Because the next day after my hand massage, we just kept it at that. We kiki kaka had some laughs, and I kept it moving because I was not looking for anybody. I was not looking for anybody. I was not looking for anything. Yes, my husband is handsome, but he is working right now, and my husband is very professional as well. So he also had a very great strong presence of professionalism, that nothing was going to get carried away. I was literally there to have a good time with my Christian company, and my husband was genuinely there to work. So that's really what it was. It was like, okay, we had a good time, but we had no problem separating. Then the next day we were getting ready for the Galabea. So was dressed, and I was really pretty. And my husband was the first person who seen me when I stepped out of my room. And the way how he looked at me, his jaw literally like was on the floor. He just looked at me like, this is the most beautiful woman I ever seen in my life. Like I can see it written across his face. And he was just like, can we take a picture? And he was just very calm, cool about it. He was just like, you just look so beautiful. I would just love to take a picture with you. Is that okay? And no, his English is not the best, but he got that message across. And we took a picture, And he was just very laid back. He was very cool. He wasn't like, I want to hurry up and jump in your suitcase. But he was like, do you mind if, we share this picture together? And then, so in that way, we got to exchange phone numbers. And he was just very smooth, calm, cool, and collected. And something about it, he was just talking to me, just normal. I hope you have a great rest of your trip. I know I told him, I was getting ready to go back to America soon. He's like, I wish you the best, and I would wish for you to come back to Egypt to come and visit me. And usually I do travel a lot, and I know how it is. A lot of these men and a lot of these people in general see Americans and people from the UK, and they think that is my golden ticket up out of here. Like, I'm going to try my best to jump in that suitcase and go to the land of glitter and gold, because that's what they assume about America a lot of times. I think with social media, they're getting a different, they're
And it's
getting
starting to
a
see
little bit more to the story.
maybe a little fool's gold happening. Go.
Right, 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 right. So, that whole thing, but never in my life. And I told you, I already had a very lengthy conversation and surrenderance to God. And never in my life, something happened to me when I was looking at our picture. And if you look at our picture, we favor each other a lot. Like the way how we look, it's like our facial features, we have a lot of resemblance. And while I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's so funny how we almost look alike. And a lot of the Egyptians, while I was on the trip, were like, you look Egyptian, like an Egyptian woman. But something spoke to me from the inside of my soul that I never experienced before. It was like from the inside of my soul, like literally whispered to me in my ear, like a person whispered to me in my ear while nobody was there and said, take this man seriously because he is your husband.
Hmm.
I have never experienced anything like that before in my life. It said, take this man seriously because he is your husband. And the way how he spoke to me, the way how he just was, and I'm a strong woman. I'm very independent. I take care of myself. I take care of others. And I'm prideful about that. But the way how he spoke to me was just, his presence was like, this is a husband. And the way how he's speaking to me, I'm like, this is my husband. This is the way how I would want my man to speak to me,
Now,
with
okay,
just honor and respect.
all right, because I know the comments are just like, girl, and this, how it's gonna be, girl. That's the 90-day fiance. He's sweet
Oh
talking
yeah.
you. He know how to, he's
It'd be
smooth with
like
that thing.
It'd be like, but you know what? The thing about it too, I love me a good G. So a good
Okay.
G is like good. I love me a good game. So I'm like, and I'm hip to the game. I've been around. I like, I'm not the oldest on the block, but I definitely been around the block. So I'm
Where now?
like,
Where you from? Where you from?
from New York.
Yeah.
I'm from
What?
Yonkers. I'm from Yonkers, New York.
Yonkers. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you
So that is right close to the Bronx. So if you know anything about Mary J. Blige, Jada Kiss, The
boogie
Lock,
down.
right. So I definitely got some soul and some I understand what goes on outside. And for me, I'm not that easy. I'm really not that easy to just say whatever you want and I'm just gonna, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I'm never that desperate because first of all, I'm cute. So, and that's not to say like, anybody, anyway, I'm just talking about me right now. First of all, I know that I have it's not too far off that I could get a man to be charmed by me.
Okay, got it. So
But
you got
so
some game yourself. In other words,
I got some
there
game
you go.
myself. So I got some game myself. So game recognizes game, real recognizes real, et cetera, et cetera. Like you could recognize what you see in yourself. So that is my main thing. I could recognize what I see like from myself, and the way how he was, I don't know he was just such a reflection of myself.
Okay.
Like I'm like, yo, if he's gaming me right now, I'm for it. I was like, I'm for it because this is the type of game that I love. This is the type of game that I like. So
It felt
I am
familiar. It
with it.
sounded like it felt familiar.
And it was so familiar. And there was nothing like he was just so genuine. Like he wasn't trying to, oh, just the way. all of our conversations just flowed so naturally and so smooth. Like he never asked me for anything. He never asked me, "Can you send me some?" He never asked me to send him any money to do pay for anything. He never asked me for any of that. He just genuinely asked for my. He just said, "I believe you are my wife."
Oh
You
wow.
see,
When did it take that turn? Because all right, so
literally,
it goes from massaging the hand to taking the picture. When did it take the turn to the romance and to now y'all are, married?
honestly, it happened real quick. There's the way how everything flowed. He was just like, honestly, I feel like I'm talking to you, and he's like, I just feel like I'm talking to a female version of myself. And he just said, I honestly feel like you are my wife. And then when he was saying that, I'm like, anybody else, and I've had it a whole bunch of times. I'm like, this is G. I don't know you through a hole in the wall. You just looking at me. You might think I'm attractive, and plus I'm American. But with him, again, I never had that experience before. I literally heard like something whisper in my ear, this take this man seriously because he is your husband. When he said that to me, when he said, I honestly believe in my heart you are my wife.
Now,
And
some people, we're having a conversation. So now I know some people from the Christian audience and some people from the Muslim audience, and they're going to say, okay, now the Christian audience is going to say that the Bible says that you are not to be unequally yoked with an unbeliever. That's what that's what the scripture says. How do you interpret that and then tie that into justify marrying a Muslim man? Because that's going to be, I know how this thing goes. So how would you
Mhm.
justify that?
I feel like he is absolutely a believer. He absolutely is a believer in God. And I absolutely am a believer in God. So I do not like to get caught up in religion. I
Okay.
don't like to get caught up in you're Christian and I'm Muslim, and Jesus, and you're doing it wrong because Jesus said this and Muhammad said that. Listen, I even read the Quran because I really did not know anything about Muslim religion. I didn't know anything about Islam for real, honestly. And then when I decided to embark on this journey with my man, I'm like, I better do some research and learn. So all I knew is that in Muslim countries, they want their woman to be submissive, to wear the hijab, to cover their face. So I'm just like, first of all, like, do you want me to like cover my face and cover everything like when I go outside? Do you want me to? So I asked him the pertinent questions before we went any further. Before you try to say, am I your wife? Do you want me to convert to Islam? Do you want me to wear the hijab? And, what's the rules? What's the terms of being your wife? I literally was asking him, and he answered me in a way that I loved. He's just like, no, this is your choice as long as you believe in God. And as a Muslim man, I am allowed to marry a Christian woman because Muslims do believe in Jesus. They just don't believe that Jesus was like the son of God. They just believe that Jesus was also a prophet like Muhammad, but they just identify with Muhammad more than they do Jesus. But they do recognize Jesus as being a biblical figure of importance to serving God. So that's my whole premise of the thing. Like, do you love God? Do you fear God? Do you hold God to a standard that God holds you accountable for your actions? Because what happens, in relationships is that love is not just enough. Love can be a fleeting feeling. You could love me for 2 years straight, and now we having a 2 years of rockiness. What is going to keep you grounded and hold you accountable? And I needed to be up in your spirit to help control your flesh. So
Well, let me now I got to throw another $1 million question out here. Now, if he comes back and he says he wants to get another wife, since you the first, what's going to be the answer?
yeah. So I've had this conversation with him a few times. And my husband swears to me that he only wants one wife. So first of all, yes, you never know what this life is going to hold. And we can't predict the future. And none of us,
Right.
I can just try to make calculated risk and put God first and see what happens. But my husband is very, very convinced that he does not need more than one wife, and he does not believe. in having more than one wife.
Okay.
And on top of that, by law, I have to give him written consent to be able to marry another wife. If the first wife does not give consent, the husband is not allowed to marry. So
Would you
that is
give consent?
so that depends on where we are in our relationship,
That's
like
real. I mean, these are real questions. That's why,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
appreciate you, saying, hey, let's have this discussion because I know so many
yeah.
people watch these conversations that I have, and I know in their minds, it's like I'm asking the question that I know they're thinking.
Mhm.
And it's a legitimate question, but your answer is real because you said, well, you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a backup plan for me. I'm like, shoot, because I honestly, I already told God, again, I don't know how this life is gonna work out. That's none of my business. That's God's business. Um, I only plan on getting married one time. And my one time happened right now.
When we come back, the conversation continues. But first, a special message from one of our sponsors. Maximum Impact Travel celebrates the rich history and culture of the African diaspora, connecting travelers to Africa, the Americas, the Caribbean, and Europe. Through carefully curated tours, they showcase the people, traditions, and hidden treasures of these regions, offering unforgettable journeys that honor the beauty and legacy of the African diaspora.
So I really am making my decision to marry my husband, to take this leap with my husband. But if it happens that in real life, so we had an amazing time together. So we spent almost 2 months together cohabitating after marriage. Okay. So we
All
got married
right.
and then we cohabitated. And we had an amazing time. But when I get him to the States and if things are like crazy and it's just, too much, I'm the type of woman that I'm all in. When I'm all in, I'm all in. I'm fighting until literally my last breath. But if things are like, in great chaos and turmoil and we just can't get it together, I have no problems signing whatever if that's going to bring us peace after years and years of not having peace, because at the end of the day, life is too short to not live peacefully. And you don't have to have it all perfect and all together, but you need to have some peace in your heart and in your life.
But would
So
it be would it be peaceful if there's another woman there? How would
no, it's not about me being, I'm not gonna be there. He can marry
Okay.
somebody else and I'm out.
Okay, that's okay.
Oh,
But
oh, sorry. No, I'm out.
okay. I was
No,
yeah.
he's out. He's out. I'm out. We both out. We separated, and he can
Okay,
marry
so
somebody else.
there's no other woman that's gonna be in your household and you're not signing a paper to say, let's bring this other woman in here and all of that.
No, honey, I'm not that type of woman.
Okay.
Two women stirring the same pot just don't even go.
God, okay. Because
God bless the people that try, but it's too many emotions in one. No, I'm the queen of my castle.
got
And
it, got
that's
it.
it.
And it's one of these things where that is the question that comes up because you are having an interfaith marriage because people considering, going and having relationships abroad, sometimes they don't think about whether or not this person may be of a different faith or a different religious background. So they're kind of, or when things get serious, or maybe, there's the baby that comes along, throughout the process that might be
Yeah,
unexpected,
right.
so it's a lot of questions that people have because I always tell people that sometimes you will find love abroad somewhere else you hadn't even considered. Maybe you're limiting yourself, you might have been limiting yourself to Yonkers, I'm just giving an example here, but your love
Yeah,
was in Cairo, Egypt, or in Luxor, that Luxor more or less,
right.
because I think that's where everything took off from. But had you limited yourself to
Yeah.
Yonkers or to the Boogie Down Bronx, it could
And never
have.
went anywhere, never expanded. Yeah, I might have just been continuously getting the same product with the same results, because I do feel like a lot of America, we are all like brainwashed with a lot of this promiscuity and perversion and just being more distracted from God and I know this sounds like, everybody's spiritual. uh everybody's in a different place with their spirituality and with how they believe about religion and what they believe about God. But as I said, I don't get caught up in religion because religion is a distraction from God, in my opinion. And my focus is on God. So for my husband, I love the fact that he's Muslim because I do love the cultural difference. I do believe in a lot of their teachings. Like, we fame alcoholism, like being having drinks after work and drinking has just become so a part of our norm. But so is us dying earlier, so is our diabetes, so is our obesity, so is our depression. uh because alcohol is poisonous to our bodies. Like, it puts a lot of stress on our livers, and it puts a lot of stress on our organs. And I am a registered nurse, by the way. So I'm a registered nurse, but I do see the impact of these things. And along with that, when I talked about the perversion and the promiscuity, their women tend to dress a lot more modestly. Like, the women tend to cover themselves up, and they don't bake their flesh to men. And I believe in that wholeheartedly because we need a lot more modesty. I believe in this here culture. And our culture, it's so easy for us to feel like we need to be naked outside, and everything is just so overly sexualized. And we wonder why we're not getting the family. So I don't know, familial, I'm not saying familiar, I'm saying family hood and results that we want, because there's way too much promiscuity and perversion and sex and comes with molestation. And listen, it's just too much. It's just too much sex. It just opens up Pandora's box. I appreciate that they protect themselves a lot more just by doing something, by covering up more. And I know it's just like, I have the freedom to do whatever I want with my body, but then again, you're baiting yourselves. A lot of men just have an innate thing inside of them that they are drawn to flesh. So the more you expose yourself, the more you are dangling meat in front of packs of wolves. It's just like an innate thing for men to, want to have sex. And for women too, it's a natural thing. It's
Now,
not saying you can't have sex, but when you're leading with your flesh, it's a little bit of a distraction from who your heart really is.
now, when you say that, because again, someone watching the interview, they would think, "Wow, how could you go over there and it be so quick, so fast? How did you know so quickly?" And then, I mean, how long did it take from the time you all met to the time you got married?
It did happen fast. So I would say 6 months.
Okay.
About 6 months from when we met to when we got married. It was 6 months. So we met in June and we just got married this December. So June.
Yeah, that's about six.
Yeah. So, and my husband was very convinced, like, like we would, like, baby, are you sure? Are you sure? And we talk every day, like the way how we communicate, as if he's with me all day. Like, he goes to work and then he comes home. Just how strong our communication is. It's like he's in heavy in my life since the day we met. He has been heavy in my life. It's not just like we talked a little bit here today and we talked a little. No, it's heavy in my life. So again, my friends would be like, but what if he just wants his green card? And what if he just, um, for me, my answer was like, so I'm just like, I don't care because I take care of myself. First of all, first and foremost, I don't need this man to take care of me. Okay. He is taking care of me currently emotionally, and I do see his strong work ethic. I see his strong work professionalism, and I see how hard he works. This man was working 7 days a week for 14 hours a day for almost $200 USD
Mm.
a month.
Wow, $200 a month.
It's almost like equivalent to $200 USD a month
Hmm.
for 7 days a week, 14 hours. Now, I feel like I'm talking to myself when I'm talking to him, and I know I would not want or accept that.
Mm.
So if I could help him, even if we don't work out, I was still at this point in my life where I am. It's not desperosity. I don't need to have, I do know the value and importance of relationship. Okay. At this time, I feel like I have matured enough that I do honor, yes, I could be good and bad all by myself, but I know that I can be greater with a protector, a king in my presence. I know that I can be even greater and having that covenant and that safety of protection. And God forbid if it doesn't work out how I see it, it is what it is. Like, I really don't mind giving this, taking a leap of faith. Love is a risk regardless. It doesn't even matter if you knew them, if they grew up with you down the block and you knew them from 10 years, 20 years. People change, thoughts change, feelings change. So you never could predict any of it
Well,
for
but
your
this
whole life.
that is very true, and thoughts and actions and feelings, all of that, do change, and and people change. Now, do you all plan on having children? Because I know that's one question. And if you do, when?
Yeah, so we would love to have children. So I am a little older. I am a little older than my husband. My husband is very mature. He's a very mature man. He really got me with his age. But we did say that was gonna be our little secret, but there is about almost a 10-year difference in our age, and I'm 34. But
Okay.
my husband presents as if he's the same age as I am.
He
And he
does. I know him, so I didn't think he was 24. That is a surprise. I am a little shocked here.
I
Okay.
was so shocked. I said, God, you must be kidding. Because I literally thought I was like, my husband gonna be like 64 years old. Cause I could be mature. Even though I play around, I could be silly and all of this. But like when it comes down to it, I am a mature young lady. But my husband blew my socks off when he told me his age. I was like, what? These men are really different. Like this one is really different. And he really stands on that. Like he has not wavered in how he or who he is at all. So, we do want to have children. I want to give my husband some time to come to America and get on his feet. So, luckily, I do take care of myself. And, with God's grace, we'll be able to pop one out when it's the right time. And
Okay.
they will be raised in a Christian and Muslim household.
Okay. I mean, again, this is a fascinating conversation, and it's something that when you told me that it was going down, I was like, okay.
I was kidding.
I was
I
like,
know you
okay.
might thought I was joking. He's
Well,
like, this girl is silly.
yeah, I did. I was like, okay, look at this, because I remember when you came on the trip, you had your photo shoot lined up. You had this whole thing mapped out. Like I got my photo shoot in front of the pyramids. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that. And then you said, oh yeah, by the way, just to let you know, we get married. I was like, wait a minute. So,
It was so funny. It was so funny because I really was like not expecting any of this. But there's a video, if we could put the video, but we went to the Aswan village. And I was just like the life of the party. Like I was just eating up this experience because I'm like, when the heck would I ever like be in Egypt? Like I just couldn't believe I was in Egypt. Like after
yeah.
all my life fantasizing, here I am in this place. So I was just fully basking in the experience. So when we went to the Aswan village, I'm dancing with the villagers, doing the welcome dance. I just got in the middle and started dancing with them. And I could hear somebody who was recording my dance with them. And it was like, Bianca's gonna find her husband on this trip. And th- I wasn't planning it. I wasn't planning it. I wasn't even thinking anything of the sorts. But
Well, here
I
you are. You found your husband.
I found
Uh,
my husband, and I'm very happy with my husband.
wow.
Yes,
What
I'm very
advice?
excited.
What advice would you give ladies, regardless of age? It could be 20 somethings, 30 somethings, 40 somethings, 50 somethings. I hear all kind of stories, 60 somethings, 70 somethings. I know a lady who went on, Sophia. She went with us to Ghana several years ago, and she actually 71 years old. She got married.
Wow.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So this is not the first time I've seen it. Actually, a couple of fellas have gotten married. They found their bride in Ghana, and so
Wow.
it's
Oh,
a
definitely in Ghana. That yeah.
yeah. So I mean, and just as obviously, the more people that travel and kind of expand their horizons, they start to find the people that they're interested in. So, what advice would you give to ladies who are traveling abroad who may be saying, "All right, I hear Bianca, Miss Benoit, I hear what's going on." What are they? What advice would you give to them? What cautions, and then
Yeah.
what advice would you give to them?
So I would say to be open-minded. I would say to be open-minded. A lot of the times we have our type, what we think our type is, and a lot of times your type can get you into trouble. So it doesn't matter if it's here, there, over there, across the world, or next door. Be more discerning, or try to be more discerning about your kind. What kind of a person are you? And what kind of person are you looking for? So therefore, it's easier to filter what's for you versus what's not for you. So you're not just falling for anything. When you're falling in love, you're bound to get hurt. Okay. You should be walking in love. You should be like, love is like more of an intentional thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just like, although, my husband and I, we just naturally had a mutual spirit and connection with each other. We were very intentional about our conversations. We were very intentional about talking about what kind of future do we see ourselves having? What do you think is a lot of money? What house do you like? Like, we had intentional conversations that was like, okay, if we are going to be together, does our vision of the future, is that in alignment, even down to having children? We had these conversations. We have religious conversations. We have these conversations. So our we were the same kind. We want the same kind of life. So therefore, let's hold hands and do it together. Come on. Let's go. Let me save you from this $200 a month. But like, not for nothing, I love my husband so much, and like I said, I'm very confident with taking care of me, and I believe in my husband and his force so much that I feel like we could succeed anywhere. If God forbid, if we have a new president, our president is not playing any games at the moment. God forbid, every single day you hear something new about what's going on with the federal, what's going on with this country and immigration. I would go to Egypt. I would go to Egypt. I was eating like a queen in Egypt, and the food is amazing. If you think we got Burger King or whatever, McDonald's, fat, like whatever, they have everything. They even have Chinese food. They have like Egyptian food is phenomenal. I was eating, and I might have put on some weight. I didn't necessarily put myself on the scale, but I still felt a lot healthier than the food that is here. I just feel like America just allows so much more chemicals in our food. I might be digressing from the original
Yeah,
question,
well,
but I
it's
just
good to hear this, because again, there are those who are watching and they're considering a move abroad. I know there's some folks that are saying, okay, well, now there's a 10-year age difference between you and him, and it's a little different because typically you'll see men who will, have the age difference, going younger. That's a very common, very
yeah,
common.
because it's maturity for the most part. Yeah, I do feel like it's maturity why that tends to be a thing. Men tend to mature at a slower rate than females do.
So with that said, though, I mean, so you've gotten a younger man,
Yeah,
so the
right.
maturity.
Because my husband has proven to me in our time together, again, we still have the rest of our lives to be together and do this thing. But from what I see so far, even throughout my dating history, he has showed me the most maturity out of any man that I've dealt with, and I've
Mm.
dealt with plenty of older men. I don't want to say like plenty of older men, but I have enough experience to gauge like age really ain't nothing but a number. It literally ain't nothing
That's
but a
real.
number. You
That's
could
a real
be
statement.
the
That's a real. That's a
Mhm,
that is such a true statement because um, I I know people who are in their 40s and 50s and 60s, and they process and
and they
see the
still kids.
world absolutely into their 70s and 80s, and
Emotionally,
it's kind of like
it's like a lot of men,
yes,
yeah. Uh, yeah, a lot of men need to recognize that not being able to understand your emotions or even acknowledge emotions, because I know it's not as easy for men. A lot of men grow up, first of all, a lot of understandably black men grow up without even having masculine role modeling, without even having male role models. And the male role models, a lot, before we started filming, we were talking about 80s and 90s babies.
yes,
A lot of that genre just kind of like women ain't but hoes and chicks, like it
yeah.
was just like a whole climate of we don't need to respect women. So you kind of get confused on I want to be with a woman, but I don't know how to respect them. And even for the women is a confusion of it's just so much confusion on how to be with one another.
Well, yeah, and I've seen it as you get older. And I've seen it with men and women. Just to kind of put it out
Yeah.
there, if you are set in your ways for so
Yeah.
long, or
Right.
if you have been through something and you've not processed the
Yeah.
trauma or the bad relationships or the toxicity of the relationships, it just
Right.
compounds. And so as someone
Exactly.
gets older, because I've talked to ladies in their 60s, in their 70s, in their 80s, and they're for some of them they have this chip that's still they've been carrying it for a long time. Same thing with the men, and
Mhm.
they've gotten to a point they're like, oh, this thing, I'm just going to be by myself, or they get to the point where they get to their 50s and 60s and 70s, and they start behaving the same way they did in their teenage years and their 20s, and
Mhm.
just kind of rolling. It's kind of like,
That's all they
wow,
know. Because that's all they know. It be the mama and the daughter in the club trying to get the same men.
absolute,
It's like, I said,
100%
"What?"
correct. What?
I said, "What?" To the point that it's even the grandma in there too.
Yes.
And it's just like, I said, "What?" And yeah, so this is what I'm talking about with the chaos and confusion. And I love how you said it because, like, you can still be emotionally an adolescent even through your greater years. So, you asked the question, what was advice? So that was a part of being open-minded.
Okay.
So that was a part of being open-minded. And the advice that I would say is learn about the culture and know that there is culture differences and respect those culture differences. And because again, we spoke about alcohol, we spoke about modesty, like my husband is not for everybody. Like I know for a fact my husband is not for everybody. If there was a woman that want to have her bust all out, she's drinking Patron on the ship, she would not be for my husband. My husband would not even look her way, period. So you got to know yourself
Yeah.
and you got to know like what's the culture differences and is that in alignment with you? You don't need to change for everybody if that's not in alignment with what you want. Cuz you can change yourself to be what you want. You can change yourself to be who you want to be. You could say I want to be a wife. I'm tired. You know what? Maybe I do need to make some changes in my wardrobe and how I carry myself into the world. That's okay. But be okay with having that self evaluation and that self reflection and being real with yourself so
Mm.
that you know what you want versus what you don't want. Again, so you don't get swindled because it's not just everybody I would advise go to a different country and just marry somebody from a different country because there is definitely humans everywhere that will prey on you when they see that vulnerability, when they see that desperosity. Like you can sniff out a woman or a man that's desperate. People will see that real quick. Oh, I could. she looked like she hasn't had some in a long time. Let me go whisper in her ear real quick.
Yeah,
Boom, got
desperation
her.
definitely has an aroma, and when you
And
say pray,
it
you
don't
don't
matter.
mean like pray, you mean pray.
P
You
R
know,
E
just
E
right,
Y,
right.
Prey. Yeah, don't be afraid. And you
Um,
could, and I've witnessed it time and time again. You could be the baddest, beautifulest chick in the room, but when you don't take care of whatever trauma you have, whatever, things that you haven't resolved within yourself, it don't matter how bad you want a relationship or how bad you want to be a wife. It's not going to work out if you haven't worked the things out within you first to make yourself like a clean slate for somebody.
mm.
Because I think that should be the best position, because a lot of people say, well, you don't have to be completely healed from whatever experiences before you get into another relationship. Again, I appreciate Muslim culture because they do not play that. I'm not saying everybody's perfect and everybody's relationship is perfect, but they do themselves a favor by not sleeping around all over the place so they don't have so much trauma and all this stuff to unpack and resolve and get over. They don't have all of that over there. So their love is a lot more pure and innocent and a lot more genuine. And of course, this don't go for 100% of the people, but you just have a more likelihood of people that genuinely have pure intentions. But then again, humans are humans. And just be careful, because it's not everybody that's built to have the discerning goggles of this is a safe space for me to put myself. This person can actually handle me and take care of me and wants to love me genuinely. You have to be able to discern that. And again, when you don't really know what love is, what love looks like, and from yourself, and connecting back with God. What is God's love? What did God say love is? And it's not for everybody to, I understand everybody doesn't read the Bible. I don't even read the Bible, but I do know that God wants us to have a love that does feel safe and like we're being protected.
When we come back, the conversation continues. But first, a special message from one of our sponsors. Join Darren and Destiny, twin explorers, on an epic journey across the African diaspora. From Ghana to Tanzania, Ethiopia, Brazil, and beyond. Their adventures uncover the beauty, history, and culture of these countries, changing the way children see the world. Dive into the adventures of Darren and Destiny now. All
And
right.
not being taken advantage of and used and abused.
Well, I will say this, Bianca. I'm glad that you came and shared this part of your life because, again, you didn't have to, but I'm glad that you were willing to because it offers a different perspective. On the surface, somebody might, see the thumbnail or read the description and just say, "Oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about," or they might even say that after hearing the conversation. But the thing is that you have been able to share your thought process through all of this. And so, for someone out there who may have given up on love, who may have said, "You know what, this is it," there's nobody in the U.S. for me, or nobody in the U.K. or wherever somebody might be.
Hearing
We,
that all over the place. That's what everybody's saying. They're like, there's nobody. You would have a whole state of how many million people. There's nobody here. There's nobody there.
yeah,
And
I've
I
heard
mean,
that.
it's really hard. It is really hard out there. And honestly, I was giving up myself. I mean, I was just like, you know what? That's why I told God. I said, I surrender.
Mm,
Because B try to do it, I am genuinely giving up on hope with this Western civilization. And with that being said, I even changed like my music that I listen to. I changed the content that I view, because this all plays a role in brainwashing us, whether we recognize it or not. And again, just the overtly promiscuity, all of this is just a recipe for disaster. Um, yeah.
well, well, it sounds to me like you have a grasp on understanding where you are in life.
Yeah.
And I wish you and your husband the very
Calculated
best.
risk.
It's
I
calculated risk,
was like the
I
calculated risk.
I hear the risk. I hear the risk, but I also hear that you have thought this through and you have made the decision and you said, you know what, you're willing to accept the good or bad consequences, whatever they may be, because consequence comes either way. They could be, good consequences or bad consequences. And you're
Right.
taking the risk to see, you say at this point, hey, you surrender and you have followed what you believe, and you know what? That is your choice with your life.
Yes.
And no
And
one,
lastly, let me just say this.
sure.
I feel like, so again, with this calculated risk that I'm taking, I know that I will be okay. Like I take care of myself regardless. So, I am taking a calculated risk to help someone else get themselves in a position where they are able to help themselves and me too. He is a part of my retirement plan.
Okay.
being that
Okay.
being that he is younger, honey, like let's retire me sweetly, please, if you can. Um with that being said, so yeah, I'll be able to take care of myself. And I have experienced heartbreak just like everyone else. And I have survived 100% of everything that I've been through. So I've been through some really heart shattering, feel like my heart was blown to oblivion. And it takes time, and I've done the work, therapy, self-evaluation, reflection, so isolation, group therapy, whatever, to heal from those things. So nonetheless, I survived it all. So I'm like, the worst that I can really have is like some heartbreak, because either way, I'll be okay.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing your story. And again, I wish you and your husband the very best. And I say to everybody out there watching right now, could your love story be overseas? Well, Bianca, she found her love story. She found her husband, and so now the question is that something that you would be open to, finding love abroad, a different country, a different culture, maybe even a different faith? Yeah, whatever the case may be, is that something that you might consider? Been talking to Bianca Benoit, and we're here. She joined us last year on one of our spectacular maximum impact travel adventures to Egypt. She was a part of our group with RC and Lisa Blakes, and so now here she is. She's married now, y'all. She's just tied that
Yes,
knot. She tied that knot.
yes. My
It's,
husband got me 2 rings
oh,
because
what?
he said we twins, honey. So he got me 2 rings.
You got two rings. See, so
I
some
got
sisters
2
tried to get
rings.
one. You got two. Let me find out.
I
So,
got 2.
well, congratulations to you. Wishing you the very best. And again, everybody, make sure that you like, subscribe, share, and please chime in with your comments below. And I know Bianca's going to be following along with everything, with the comments and any thoughts you may have questions for her. But again, this is part of what we do as we bridge the gap in the global African community, also known as the African diaspora. And we have these types of conversations because we need to. And again, there was much more to the conversation than just talking about the marriage. Bianca shared a whole lot about just her perspective in relationships and her being, experienced and having made mistakes, but then getting to the point where she wants to get it right. And so she's willing to take a calculated risk to get it right. So, everybody, thank you again for tuning in. Until next time,
Thank
take
you.
care and be safe. Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you. Bye.